Okay, I
There
have
you are.
permission to speak. Fellow Toastmasters, all guests to Toastmasters, our honored presenter, Luisa Montalvo, the 2024 World Champion of Public Speaking. I can't tell you what a thrill this is to have this kind of a workshop presented here in District 57. Thank you, Lisa Thompson, for arranging for this, for making the connection with Luisa. We are forever in your debt as well. This is a unique opportunity to watch and learn from a one-on-one training event. We have speakers that are going to be getting personalized feedback. And as you all well know, when you are in a regular Toastmasters meeting, you can learn and hopefully do learn as much from the feedback that other speakers are getting as you do when you are given feedback for your own presentations. For that reason, I am particularly encouraged by the number of people who have registered for this event, the number of people who are already on. It's going to be a great couple of hours. I don't know what else to say. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to learn a lot from what you have to say and from listening to our speakers and evaluators today. Back to you, Hans.
All right. Thank you, Sally. Thanks for welcoming all of us, and thank you everyone for participating in this. This is going to be great because, as you know, contest season is on us right now. Clubs are doing it right this month, and next month we're shifting to the area. And of course, in March, we'll have division, followed by the District 57 contest. So the insights that you'll obtain today, we think are going to help you a great deal. And let me put the agenda in the chat, which I've already done, and I will proceed to introduce our fabulous guest speaker this morning. Luisa Montalvo was born and raised in South Texas. She then moved to Austin, okay, and she worked at Abbott Laboratories for 25 years before retiring at the age of 53. And for the last 8 years, she's been busy rescuing, fostering, and transporting homeless dogs all over the United States. She's fostered and cared for over 1,000 homeless dogs, during that time. Now, as far as Toastmasters goes, she joined us back in 1989 for 3 years, had a slight gap, and then rejoined back in 2013. She started competing seriously during that time. And in 2019, 5 years ago, she competed against over 140, as you know, international pits you against over 140 different countries, people from all over the world. And she received second place back then, 5 years ago. She tried again this year, only a few months ago, resulting in a first place performance, world champion. She is currently working on starting a free spay neuter clinic for dogs. Very interesting. It's definitely a favorite cause of hers. She loves saving animals, giving inspiring speeches, and making friends along the way. She's striving to make her mother proud. Please join me in welcoming Luisa Montalvo.
Am I audible? Excellent. I am so lost right now. I'm not sure how to even act. Why? Because for the last 11 years, I have competed in the international speech contest. And this is the first year that I'm not allowed to compete anymore in the international speech contest. Now, mind you, I am not complaining, not in the least. I'm just almost like a fish out of water right now, because by now I've already got a speech kind of ready to go. I've already competed at the club level. I'm getting ready for area, psyching myself out for division, district, region, semifinals, finals. And I can't do that anymore. Oh my gosh, I'm a fish out of water. However, in all the years that I've been doing this, 11 years straight, I want to share as much as I know, because to be able to compete and advance for me was euphoric. Now, I'm a little over competitive, but still, I want to share what I can with you. I recall a gentleman asked me a couple of years ago, he said, I would love for you to coach me, but you probably won't because you're competing yourself. I said, no, I will coach you. Really? Absolutely. Two reasons. One, if I give you every single tool, every single piece of wisdom that I've gained in these years that I've been competing, if I give you all that knowledge and you come back, use it on me and beat me, guess what that means? That means I have to up my game. That means I am now challenged to be better. Wow. Okay. And you know what? Every contest that you enter, that's all you're doing. You are not measuring yourself against the other contestants. You're measuring yourself against the performance you gave last week at the club. That's what you're doing. Now, if I give you all my tools and you beat me, now I need to get better. However, if I give you all my tools and I beat you, then I can pat myself on the back because I gave you every single advantage to come back to beat me. So I remember back in high school, and I'm not sure why Toastmasters doesn't do this. I love the organization, but I remember back in high school competing at the UIL level, which was Universal Interscholastic League, I believe that's what it was called. And it was just schools, high schools from around your area competing against each other. And I did compete in my senior year. Now, what they do differently is after you've given your speech, usually it was three judges. The three judges would sign out the form, had you graded on whatever, rank you first, second, or third, sign their name, and there was a critique at the bottom of their sheet. In other words, it would tell you what you could have improved on. Wow. And I guess they do that because Toastmasters does offer evaluations. So I guess this was the answer to that. I went back and read a lot of the evaluations and critiques of the high school judges. And I have to tell you, this was 1977. There was no DEI. There was no, I hope I didn't offend anybody, that sort of thing. And I got critiques such as, I think I still have one there in my drawer. It's a great voice control, great this, great humor, but next time, maybe you might want to put on some makeup and wear a dress. Okay. Just to let you know the level of evaluations and what they were looking for or what they were expecting from us in 1977. People often wonder, or maybe not, why stay with Toastmasters? You see, for an organization to be good, it needs to evolve. It needs to change with the times. And being that we are actually celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Toastmasters, if you stop and think 50 years ago, women weren't allowed in Toastmasters. So they made the change. All right, women are now allowed. But 100 years later, if there's a disabled, minority, senior citizen, female on stage taking first place, you're in the right organization because they have been able to transform, accept everything that the future is bringing. For all of you that are considering competing, and even those of you that aren't, I recommend just one contest. Just try it. You can put yourself out there, you can get out of your comfort zone, and then being able to accept and receive evaluations and critiques from former Toastmasters, to me, is the best. And I'll tell you why. I have not yet, well, maybe one. Out of all the Toastmasters I have met, every single Toastmaster has wanted to encourage me, empower me, motivate me, inspire me, cheered for me. Really? Where can you go to get this kind of commitment, feedback, love, admiration? I haven't been able to find a place. But that's why I stay in Toastmasters. Even after having the trophy, I love this organization. I encourage any and all of you to join at least one contest. And thank God I'm not competing, because I have seen the upcoming competition. It's tough. It's tough. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Luisa. As you all know, the purpose of today is to provide a session for transformative change. We're going to be hearing from two speakers who will then be evaluated by two evaluators. Luisa is going to listen to each of those four individuals and then make recommendations for feedback, suggestions, etc. They will then have time to revise their presentations and then come back to us. That way they'll incorporate all the suggestions that we usually have, similar to what would happen in a contest environment. Mm-hmm. But the main purpose here tonight is not competition, but more change and taking feedback and being able to move on it as quickly as possible. With that being said, we're going to introduce our very first speaker of the day. And her name's Kaylin Nasser. Kaylin is actually a fairly new Toastmaster. She joined in November of last year. She is from California and is currently a member of both Napa and Mara Island Toastmasters. And, like I said, November of last year, she has hobbies including tennis, options trading, and old school roller skating. We're talking about those types with the 4 wheels on them, 2 rows of wheels, not rollerblading or anything like that. So very interesting. To her, she wants to develop a seamless method of speech delivery and sharing what she's passionate about in a way that will make a positive impact on other people's lives. Her speech today is titled "The Final Step Before a New Beginning."
She needs to unmute.
And this will be a traditional 5 to 7 minute speech, just as you would see in a contest. And then, like I say, followed by feedback from Luisa, and then a traditional evaluation as well. So with that, please welcome Kaylin.
This speech will be divided into 3 parts. The first part is what I want you to know. The second part is what I want you to feel. And the third part is what I want you to do. By the end of this presentation, I hope that you will reconsider your views. First, let's begin with what I want you to know. As a country, I feel that we are so close to being an all-inclusive society. In my home, I am intentionally raising my children to have a progressive, sensible, and unprejudiced mindset compared to people from previous generations. One day, my son came home from school and asked me, "Mom, what am I? Am I Black or white?" And this is what I said to him: "You are neither, because Black and white are colors. The color of a car, your shirt, or a piece of paper can be Black or white. When someone asks you if you are Black or white, what they are asking about is your ethnicity." I explained to him that the reason they are asking this is because once upon a time, less than 100 years ago, Black and white were identity labels that categorized people, which divided or segregated them. Their actual origin of ethnicity was taken from them. So when someone asks you that, they may not be aware of it, but they are operating from a segregated mindset. I instructed him not to ever identify as Black or white and to instead tell them his ethnicity, which is Yemeni, Creole, Nigerian, and Italian. And if they insist that he choose one, to kindly repeat his ethnicity and get away from them, because that mindset stems from a wicked period in time. The label African American is also incorrect due to its vagueness. For example, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Iraq are in Asia, but those people are not considered or forced to identify as Asian American. The geographical origin of most people with the identity label Black and white was venally concealed or eliminated. I lastly want you to know that we must stop identifying as Black or white, as it is not indicative of our origin of ethnicity. This identity label saddled people with a feeling. And here's what I want you to feel. I want you to feel what it meant to be identified as both white and Black. To identify as white meant to be a proud aggressor, known as the superior and dominant race, filled with anger, hate, jealousy, and bitterness, terrorizing, torturing, or even murdering harmless people without cause or fear of scrutiny and repercussions. To identify as Black meant to be the inferior race, looked upon as less than an animal, dehumanized, helpless, heathens, waste, denied freedom, rights, and education, living in fear of fellow human beings who were beyond sinister and promising of an unpropitious outcome. Growing up, I was told that I was Black until other family members pointed out that my hair was too fine, my skin too light, my nose too pointy, and my toes too long. I then realized that Black nor white was a homeland that I could return to. So I ordered my DNA kit and found out that I am Nigerian and Italian, and that is the way that I identify. I was so comforted to be relieved of those labels. Some people who identify as Black have been angered by what I have just said to you. They think that Martin Luther King, John Lewis, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, and all of the original activists were what it means to be Black, but they couldn't be further from the truth. Those activists are what it means to be brave, fearless, and to overcome chronic trauma that seemed to be never ending. They had to accept the Black identity label, and it even became a respected alternative, but is no less cruel and offensive in my opinion. In 2025, people are still identifying as Black and white. The mistakes of past generations are still bleeding onto our children. And now this is what I want you to do. If you identify as white or Black, I want to encourage you to find your origin of ethnicity by visiting My Ancestry and order your DNA kit. Change the way you verbally identify yourself. Teach your children to identify as their ethnicity. Removing white and Black from applications and the census will be next. But in the meantime, try the best that you can to make this change as soon as you can, as it is what I believe to be the final step before a new beginning. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kaylin. I'm now going to ask Ash, our first evaluator, Ash Kumra, to go into the waiting room, or breakout room, which is open right now. And if you see a button at the bottom of the screen to go in there, let me know if you see that. Okay, and during that, while he's preparing his notes, let's have some comments from Luisa about Kaylin's performance today.
All right. If I'm correct, this is also a timed response. Is that correct?
5 to 7 minutes.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Kaylin, first of all, I have to commend you. You've only been in Toastmasters a few months. Is that correct? Wow. If that's it, my hat's off to you, because to be able to get, one, in front of an audience to compete, two, to put yourself out there, and by putting yourself out there, you're talking about something that is very, very near and dear to you. And I could understand that in the tone of your voice when you gave your speech. What I would like to tell you is that over the 11 years that I competed, when I would lose, I would have to go back home, sometimes crying, sometimes not crying because I didn't win. But I had to realize I was going to have to reinvent myself. In other words, the style that I gave my speech, whatever I spoke about, for some reason, wasn't what the judges wanted to hear. Now, if it doesn't matter to you whether you win or lose, more power to you, because then you can say what you'd like to say in your style, in your way. And if you are interested in winning, these are tips that I think will help you get a trophy in your hand. I have seen professors join Toastmasters, and they always come out with, in my speech, I'm going to be telling you, stop right there. When you say, okay, I'm going to first tell you 1, 2, and 3 things, what I want you to know, what I want you to feel, and then what I want you to do. If your speech is organized enough and powerful enough, you eliminate that, I'm going to tell you what I know, feel, do. You don't need to say that at all. Now, also, when you are going to give a speech, if you want people to really listen to what you're going to say, if you haven't captivated me in the first 30 seconds, chances are I might not listen as intently to what you have to say. So I always like to start the beginning of a speech with something either nobody's done, nobody's heard, everybody's going to keep talking about next week, next month, and possibly next year. So I like my intro and my ending to correlate with one another, to relate to where the audience goes, oh my gosh, when you start with your opening sentence, and it could be anything like, are you Black or are you white? It could be something as profound as that, because everybody's going to go, oh, wait, is she talking to me? She's not talking to me like that, is she? So to me, grab something like that that's going to grab your audience, to me, would be great. And then the ending would be, you could say anything, blah, 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 sum up, and then back with say, so, are you black or white? No such thing. And that's your ending, because that's actually the point you're trying to make, correct? You're trying to let everybody know there's no black, there's no white. So if you start and end your speech with what you want your audience to know, to me, that would be something a little more powerful instead of the first, I'm going to tell you, second, and third. Again, that's what professors do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. However, if you want to place in a speech contest, I have noticed that over the 11 years, these are the things that work. One thing you also want to do that a good speech always has is a personal story. Now, you did start with the story about your son saying, Mom, am I black or white? However, there was very little contrast when you were giving the part about your son to where you could have easily said, my son came home. Do you know what he asked me? He said, Mom, am I black or am I white? What am I? You see, now you're telling the audience and you're showing the audience that, hey, my son is speaking to me. It's a different voice. You're looking up, showing that you're the child looking up at the mother. And by doing that, you are letting us know there's a conversation going on. And this is a very important conversation. So you're going to listen to what your son says. So the personal story was good. However, it sounded more of, and I hate to say this, and I should have prefaced my evaluation with this, I don't want to be wasting your time. So I'm not going to tell you I like your outfit, your hair looks nice. I'm going to tell you things that are going to help you win, in my opinion. And I hope you're able to receive that. I don't want to get here. I'm not going to embarrass you. I just want you to win because it's so euphoric. And if you really want that, I'm your girl to help you. So, along with a personal story, you might want to throw in 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 lines of humor. It doesn't have to be a humorous speech, but I almost wanted to laugh, but you were so serious that I didn't. There's a part there where you started describing humor, a description of your body. My hair wasn't thin enough, my this, my that. And you know what? My toes were the wrong size. Like, and I would have laughed because if you change your voice and say, hey, isn't that the stupidest thing you've ever heard? My toes are the wrong size. You kept your voice almost monotone, but not really. So if you change this up a little, we're going to want to listen. So it's, when you were speaking, it was almost in a documentary form. It almost sounded like a documentary when you said, Tubbs, Martin Luther King, this, that, and you threw the history in, which is great. But I think mainly I would suggest probably working on a different tone or being able to change the tone in your voice. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I could almost feel the upsetness in you. And when you're upset, I could have been your mother or your sister. I would have gone, oh man, girl, chill out. That's a little too upset. What's going on? So if you're more conversational instead of showing maybe your true raw emotion of being upset of the whole situation, that your son had to come and ask you this, and then you had to break it down and tell him exactly what was going on. You want the audience to feel an empathy for you. You don't upset your audience. You want them to say, look, is this where we're headed? We've done 100 years of this. Isn't it time for a change? Wouldn't it be great if we could just not even say whether we were black or white? I'm Italian, for God's sakes, and something, just anything, because you want your audience to care and want to help you. And if you come off as upset or angry or frustrated, the audience can feel that. You have and then you said I suggest you go to My Ancestry. I don't know if you would have to, if you don't necessarily want to say myancestry.com, you might want to say, you might want to go and find a company that would give you a DNA breakdown. I'm not sure if there's any legalities in there if you were to say like Uber or My Ancestry or something, you know, Walmart. I'm not sure. Look into that because I would hate for you to be disqualified. Everything you say, everything you said today matters. To win, I feel you have to find a different approach. Everything you said is valid. I felt it. I felt your frustration. I felt your anger. But to be able to have people want to be empathetic with you, your audience, maybe a different approach. That's all I'm saying. Other than that, I like your presentation skills. You have a great voice. Of course, here I am at the end of the evaluation trying to say you did good and this and this and this. You were rubbing your hands together. I would not do that because it can be distracting at times. That's basically all I have for an immediate evaluation. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Luisa. At this point today, we're going to invite our first evaluator, who has been patiently waiting in the breakout room. Ash, you are with us. I see your icon. I'm going to introduce you, and you will perform the standard 2 to 3 minute evaluation, which will be followed by comments from Luisa. Now, for those of you who haven't met Ash, he's the Vice President of Public Relations for Pleasanton Community Toastmasters, and he's a seasoned media professional. He has a background as an FM radio show host, and he's a published business author. He brings a wealth of experience in communication and storytelling. This spring, he's channeling this expertise into developing his first fiction novel, making an exciting new chapter in his creative journey. He's been in Toastmasters for a little over a year, and his hobbies are currently focused on writing and improving his speaking. Please welcome Ash Kumra.
Thank you for that introduction, Hans. Thank you, everyone. I am very glad to be here, especially the honor of evaluating Kaylin Nasser's speech, The Final Step Before a New Beginning. This powerful speech addresses courage and fearlessness and sets a compelling example for shaping a future where our world is not overshadowed by the common prejudices that part of our country still unfortunately grapples with. Let's talk about her speech. Caitlin began her presentation with clear instructions on how to engage with her speech. She wanted the audience to know, feel, and take action upon its conclusion. That, to me, was already a home run idea. She then expanded on these three components, effectively transforming her speech into a narrative story. What truly made her presentation feel like a story was her ability to reference her son and willingness to be vulnerable by sharing her own personal experiences and history and things that she has researched on her own. She challenged the simplistic black and white labels, but instead emphasized the need for ethnicity as a more meaningful identifier. To elevate this already astounding speech, I would suggest a few enhancements because, hey, that's why we're in Toastmasters, right? We always learn, we always grow. We're never reaching that zenith. Number one is hand gestures. While I applaud you for using your hands during the speech, you in particular kept it in a kind of a triangle form, as people who are seeing my video can see that. I feel you could have utilized your hands in more variety. For instance, when you would say certain examples, you might move your hand to the right, or you might do a presentation. You could align that movement a little more clearly, in my belief. Number two, I would say your emotional variation in voice intensity could have been more enhanced. I honestly felt like I heard this one type of voice tone. While I understand the seriousness of this conversation that you're having with us all, and I appreciate your vulnerability, I felt that you could have showcased some more emotions and varieties, maybe even mimicking the voice of your son when he was trying to talk to you, in a sense. Last thing I would say on the enhancements is in the beginning, would add another disclaimer. So you see, some of your statements, while I would say are widely agreed upon, it might not resonate with everyone. For instance, some of your comments on past perceptions of certain ethnicities, that's not every single person of ethnicity. Some of those people themselves might have gone through some hardships. And so I would mention that this is what my perception is and not for everyone. But despite these suggestions, your presence, your intention, and your emotions were palpable, and I greatly appreciate your call to action. I sincerely hope you refine the speech and share your message. It appears to be a significant part of your journey. Thank you.
Ash, thank you so much. At this time, Luisa is going to provide comments on your performance today as an evaluator, and she'll have 5 to 7 minutes to perform that task. And then both of you, both yourself and Kaylin, will go into the breakout room where you can totally revise what you have, and then we'll bring the next pair up. But Luisa, if you'd like to provide comments at this time.
Luisa, I'm sorry, you're still muted.
Oops.
Plus, we lost Luisa. Where did she go?
You are right. It's not in the participant list anymore.
I don't know what happened. All right, just hold on, everyone. I'm sure she's on standby.
She probably just pushed the wrong button when she tried to unmute.
So, I was just trying to be so careful that no one else in the audience unmuted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can turn that off. Well, are you trying to figure out where she is?
Well, she dropped, so she's going to have to reconnect. I texted her.
I think she just came back in called iPhone, and we can rename her.
Oh, you see an iPhone in the list? Let's see.
Oh,
Hold on.
I admitted it.
Oh, you did? Maybe that's her. There she is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. You're back. Might have pushed the wrong button, huh? Oh, she's still muted. She's still
Yeah,
muted.
we still
Can
need
you
you to unmute.
hold on. Shouldn't
There
I
you
be
go.
able to?
Perfect. Now we see you, we hear you,
Yeah.
and we will rename you.
Aw, I feel special.
You
My
are.
God,
Thank you
United.
for being here.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thanks.
Sorry
Thanks
about
for
that. Okay, am I
no
audible?
problem.
Ready to go? Timer?
You're audible and all set.
All
Okay.
set. Excellent. Okay, Ash. All I see is Ash Kumra. So I hope that's your first name, Ash. Very good. Yes, sir. I see that. Cool. Wow. So if I had any tact or any feelings, I would have given the evaluation you gave, but I was a little more stern. However, your evaluation was put so eloquently because you said almost everything that I said, plus more, but your style in which you gave it, I have to commend you because I you could rip me to shreds on an evaluation on one of my speeches, and I wouldn't be able to get mad at you because you did it so well. It's the ham sandwich. You say something great in the beginning, you offer your recommendations, and then you come back at the end with saying, great job. And that's exactly what you did. And that's kind of the format that we use now for evaluations. However, the way you said it was so, so nice. You said, in the very beginning, you complimented her speech in the intro, which is very good because anytime you compliment someone in the beginning of a conversation, now they want to hear you because now guess what they're doing? They're listening for more compliments. Now they're going to hear all the feedback and everything you've got, but they're also subliminally still listening for that extra compliment. And you slid that in there so well in the beginning, and I really liked it. But then you said something, and it was a powerful move. You said, let's talk about her speech. You didn't say, I'm going to tell you, this is what I think. You didn't say, I. Right away, you got the audience wanting to be involved. And you said, let's talk about her speech. Oh, okay. Now, even though I'm not going to say anything, I'm already thinking, oh, maybe he's going to let me talk. No, it's the style and the way that you said it that made it so nice. You did the compliments on the speech. You said, oh, hey, you had this and this and this. So for me, it was already a home run. I liked it. That was really good. That was nice. Provided everybody knows, because it's a universal audience, that everybody knows what baseball is and what a home run is, but that's okay. We can talk about that later. You reviewed the speech, and then she challenged, let me see, okay. And another good line you used is, I would recommend. In other words, you didn't say, you need to do this, you need to change that. You said, I would recommend, which is so nice. And that was the eloquent part, because I might have said, you need to do this, you need to do that, because that's how I talked. Sorry, you said it so much better. Your hand gestures, you commented about that, which that was also very true. Very nicely done. You said, while I understood. Oh my gosh, here you go. Here's the empathy coming from you as the evaluator. And it was done so smoothly. You said, while I understand the seriousness of your subject. Oh my gosh, wow. I would have just said, hey, you know what you talked about? I didn't like it. But you came in with all your grace and compassion and said, while I understand the seriousness of your subject. Man, kudos. That was beautiful. You had great suggestions. You were much more kinder than I was. I'm reading what I wrote here, and you had a great conclusion. So for me, that evaluation, you knocked it out of the park if you know about baseball. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you again, Luisa. Now at this time, what we're going to do is move forward. We're going to have a question and answer period, but during that time, both Kaylin and Ash will have the opportunity to revise their presentations. And I'm going to move both of them to a breakout room right now. I'm going to open that room right now, and both of those people should see a button at the bottom of their screen. They can go into that breakout room. But during that time, what we're going to have is our second pair of speakers and evaluators that is going to step forward. And let me introduce that first person to you. His name is Dilip Trivedi, and Dilip is part of CBC Toastmasters. He joined about 2 years ago to enhance his public speaking skills and sharpen his ability to think on his feet. He's currently an IT leader at a medical technology company. He enjoys exploring the outdoors, whether that involves hiking or riding his mountain bike along East Bay trails. His speech is titled Negotiation with a Senior Leader at Work. Please welcome Dilip Trivedi.
How is my audio quality?
Good.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Chester Karras, a renowned expert in negotiation technique, said, in business, as in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Today, I'm going to share a story about a negotiation with a senior leader at work and highlight 4 principles that I used to reach an effective outcome. Situation was, I was a program manager for a large-scale technology implementation. Team was based in 2 locations. Entire engineering team was based in India, while the engineering leader, along with the product team, were based in US. While this arrangement worked very well during planning and discovery phase, I started to see poor quality of product from the engineering team. Upon further due diligence, I realized that we must co-locate the engineering leader with the rest of the engineering team in India. Otherwise, the entire program will be at risk. The challenge was entire engineering team reported under a separate organization led by a vice president of engineering. I'll call him Scott. I had no authority on any decision making when it comes to the team structure or location. So I decided to engage in a negotiation using collaborative negotiation technique with focus on a win-win outcome. This is how it all unfolded. And I will break it into 4 steps or 4 principles. First, build rapport and separate emotions from the issue. The good news was I already had an existing one-on-one. And in fact, I used one of the one-on-ones to bring the issue and acknowledge the fact that the current arrangement works very well, but due to time zone differences, it's causing limited collaboration. Second, identify interest behind positions. It was easy for us to straight away talk about to relocate or not. Instead, I took a step back and I explained my position that timely feedback to the technical team and good oversight is critical to the success of the program. I asked for his position. Scott explained the engineering lead should closely coordinate and build relationship with the stakeholders and product team in US for successful release planning. Once we were clear with our interests, the next step was to get into creative problem solving. I came up with a proposal and outlined 3 ideas. As we were talking through the ideas, I came to know that the VP of engineering, Scott, wanted to build a new team to support the product in India. This was a new information. So I used the 4th principle, which was to collaborate and come up with a resolution. Looking at this opportunity, I reinforced my position saying that it is even more important to have this engineering lead co-located, as this person will help in recruitment and onboarding of the new team. I, in fact, offered my help towards building the new team. And I had one more leverage, which was travel budget. I think what sealed the deal was my offer to Scott saying that I will fund the travel for his quarterly visit to engineering team in India. We ended up with a win-win outcome where I was able to relocate the resource. At the same time, Scott was able to get my commitment on building the product team. In conclusion, what I learned from this negotiation is that by focusing on interest and collaboration, we can convert a negotiation into an opportunity. Next time when you negotiate, remember, win-win outcome is possible if you focus on these 4 principles. Finally, I recommend a book called Getting Past No from William Ury to learn more about negotiation technique. As William Ury said, negotiation is not about winning or losing. It's about creating collaborative outcomes in benefit of everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dilip, for that excellent speech. And Luisa is going to provide you with some comments on that. Take it away, Luisa.
I'm sorry, you're still muted.
Thank you so much. And I mute myself because I have my dogs in the background and did not want to influence the speaker with the distractions. So sorry. Excellent. Okay, Dilip. I believe I've seen you before, and that's okay. What I want to know is, and maybe I'll just give my evaluation, my critique. If this is a speech you're wanting to give off pathways, I really liked it. If it's a speech you're wanting to use for the international contest, I would have a few suggestions that might help you get past a few contests. For pathways, informative speech, a report, great, because you had ideas, you had negotiations, you had summarizations, you had principles. That's all good. For international speech contest, there's almost a formula that they go by. One is, and I'll throw in what I like to see, but one is humor in a speech. And it doesn't have to be every other sentence is funny, but you might want to throw maybe 3 humorous lines in there. This helps you gauge whether your audience is asleep, or if they laugh, that means they're awake and they're listening, and that's good. So humor would be one thing to throw in. The second thing I would recommend, and although you did touch on it a little, is the personal story. You talked about talking to the older gentleman. You talked about your conversation and how you think you won him over was when you said, hey, guess what? Guess how I got him to go ahead and sign? I'm going to pay for everything. And that's usually what it is. And that's what the negotiating is. You need to know what's important to the other person. And if it's paying to get him here, then that's what you have to do to have it a win-win situation, which is what you were talking about. You want to emphasize whatever it is you're trying to get across, which to you, I believe, was the negotiating part. And since you succeeded and you won, and you got him to agree. That's a victory for you. And you want to have your audience feel that that's a victory. You're like, guess what? So again, go ahead and emphasize that part. Your voice, you have a great speaking voice. However, I didn't hear any, not that you're going to in every speech, hear somebody speak softly, but then I didn't hear you get excited. I didn't hear you get mad. I didn't hear you get anything. It almost stayed the same through the entire speech. So you might want to change that up. I'm going to say this as gently as I can because it's what I had to do to improve my speech. What I do is I grab a phone, I go to text, and there's a little microphone at the bottom. And that little microphone, when you tap it, it will translate whatever it will transcribe whatever you're saying. So I would sit there and say, well, I'm going to the store for some food. And when I would look back, the first some food was FIR. And I thought I was saying FOR. So I realized I was saying fur instead of for. I realize now I'm saying gonna instead of going to. So if you want to use that little trick or ask people that are not of your native descent, listen to my speech because you said once and then you said it twice, which is why I wrote it down. You said, I'm going to get in a possession. And it's position. Possession means that you are being controlled by something else and might lead your audience to wonder, oh my gosh, what is he talking about? But if you say position, I'm going to get in the position to do something. I caught it the first time and then you said it twice. So I said, okay, this needs to be addressed. At the very beginning, you said, okay, I'm going to talk about 4 principles. I said, okay, fine. But then in the middle of the 4 principles, you said, I have 3 ideas. Okay, wait a minute. Are we talking about 4 principles or the 3 ideas? And then you went and talked about the 3 ideas. And then in the end, you said, oh, okay, so now the 4th principle was, so it was, to me, it was a little confusing. Now, instead of at the end, you said in conclusion, and instead of saying in conclusion, you could say, so next time you're going to negotiate and you want a win-win, 1, do this, 2, 3, and don't forget 4. That's the one that's going to get you seal the deal. So instead of having to say in conclusion, you go ahead and repeat what the 4 steps were. So you are putting it back fresh in our mind what they actually were. Then at the very end, and a lot of speakers do this without realizing that they shouldn't, you say thank you. You don't say thank you. We should be thanking you because you're presenting a speech. When you say thank you, you're basically telling us, okay, well, I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to say thank you, and that's the ending of my speech. However, I'm going to challenge you to try to come up with a better introduction to grab the attention, our attention, and then come back with a better ending so that the ending correlates to the beginning and we go, oh, he's finished. You didn't have to say thank you. Those are my suggestions. I wish you luck. Back to you.
All right. Thank you again, Luisa. And now it is time to turn it over to our second evaluator, who is none other than Casey Shaw. Casey is from San Ramon, currently works at Google as a technical sales leader in the cloud business. He has 3 daughters. He's passionate about learning, and he believes in a growth mindset. His life slogan is a lifelong learner and a passionate teacher. He's currently a member of both Oakland 88 Toastmasters and Walnut Creek Toastmasters. His hobbies include golf, and it's interesting. He's into water fasting. And recently he fasted for 22 straight days with only water. He, of course, meditates during this event, and he believes that fasting is 100% mind control. He has videos on this process on YouTube, so check it out if you're interested. Casey, take it away.
He's muted. There, whoops, you had it. Try one more time. You had it for a second. Okay.
There you go.
You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Dilip Trivedi. Thank you, Toastmaster. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Especially thank you, World Champion of Public Speaking, Luisa. And specifically, thanks to Dilip for giving this wonderful speech on how to negotiate with senior leaders, not just any leaders. High-stake negotiation at its best. You laid out principles of negotiating at high level. There are many gems in this speech. I picked up. I will talk about the top two, Kohinoor, if I will, the biggest diamonds of all. Your opening and closing. You started in your opening with a saying, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate, and you substantiated with your conclusion with the book, quote from the book, it's not about winning alone, it's about collaborating for the right outcome for everyone. What a profound message in there. The second part that I really enjoyed is the gestures. Gestures are what brings speech to life. They make it believable. They enhance the message you're delivering. You had lots of gestures. At one point, you even stepped back because your negotiation was going, or you said, let me step back for a second. And that conveyed the message loud and clear, even on this Zoom setup. Now, I'll give you a couple of things to think about. The clarity of a speech is very important in terms of landing your message. In this speech, you had 4 points that you wanted listeners to take away. In the last one, then you said, I have 3 more points. That's 7. When you have a loaded speech in a 7 minute, 7 points, it's very difficult for the listeners, your audience, to retain. When you give them 7, they don't even retain 1 or 2. So my recommendation is you could cut it down to 2 or 3 at the most. Humor is another one. If you see Curb Your Enthusiasm show, every episode has a message in a very, very funny way. Your speech, this speech was full of profound messages, negotiation skills, etc. Make it a little bit lighthearted. For example, you could have said, are we going to ship a product every year, or are we going to ship it once in a blue moon? Right? Because this thing was inhibiting your shipping the products or building it because you had not co-located. Overall, amazing speech, great opening, great closing. If you can integrate those, maybe humor and clarity a little bit, it will be even better. Well done, Dilip.
All right. Thank you very much, Casey. At this time, both speaker number 2 and evaluator 2 have performed. And at this time, I I'd like to ask Luisa to provide feedback to Casey, after which both of those individuals will go into a breakout room to make revisions based on Luisa's recommendations. So, Luisa, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Casey. So we've had two great evaluations from two great evaluators. Your eloquence and your kindness toward the speaker are to be commended. It's something I don't usually do, but I'm learning at the age of 65. You, first of all, commended and did the general ham sandwich where you give the compliments, then something you can improve on, and then come back with the well done. And that's usually the style we go for. You had a great intro, commending him. Good job. I liked it. You talked about how he had great hand gestures. You reviewed the speech very nicely, which is so nice. Some evaluators will go off on their own tangent and talk about something that has nothing to do with the speech. However, you didn't do that. You stuck to it. You did point out the fact that we need humor in a speech. And you even gave a reference. You said, hey, if you ever see Curb Your Enthusiasm, and you made me laugh because it's one of my favorite shows. And so now maybe Dilip's going to go back and say, maybe I need to get on Netflix, watch a few episodes. So you actually gave him more insight as to, hey, try this style of humor. So that was really good because you gave an example. You also spoke about things he needed to do, maybe refine, which I had touched on also, which was you said, you're giving a 7-minute speech. You can't give 7 tips. That's 1 minute a tip. He said, so instead, you may want to just make it 1 or 2. And that was really good. I liked your candidness. You were very open and honest. You might have also, other than adding in humor, you could have said something about his voice, maybe different inflections on the voice, because he was a little on the same bar. And then also suggest that an intro and an ending should tie together. So come in with a powerful intro because you want to captivate your audience, and end it as equally powerful because you want to leave your audience saying, oh man, I wish you would have spoken for just another minute. You want to have them wanting to listen. So maybe make more recommendations on what he can actually do. Maybe actually, if you were able to understand all of his words, that's great. I faltered a little bit and I wanted to have him go and have someone else help him on diction and enunciation and accent on syllables. Other than that, though, your style was very nice. I would say give a few more critiques so that he can really get better, because that's exactly what the evaluation is. We want to get better and we need more of that. Other than that, great job. I really liked it, Casey. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Luisa. At this time, I'm going to have both of those people, both Casey and Dilip, move into a breakout room and let me assign that. But at this time, as I'm creating that breakout room, what we're going to do is open it up to a general Q&A session with Luisa. For those of you out in the audience, you've seen speakers and evaluators at many other contests before, but from the perspective of a world champion, it's different. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask questions not only about what Luisa looks for when she's listening to a speaker, but also, some aspects of her experience as a competitor, what that was like. Maybe you have questions about her journey or what it was like to appear at the higher level contests. So we'd like to open it up for approximately 10 minutes of those questions. And if you'd like, feel free to either raise your hand or pose a question in the chat. I have a question here from, let's see. Okay, I have a question from AJ. And if we can just go ahead and unmute everyone. Because I can't unmute people myself. So AJ,
I took the restriction off. Everyone should be able to unmute themselves.
okay. AJ, do you see on your, should be able to see at the top right corner, either that or.
It just came through now. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Luisa, for your patience. You talked a little bit about a formula that is common in the International Speech Contest. And I wanted to ask you about a particular one that I see often. And that is the question. So Toastmasters, have you ever had ring around the color? Are you challenged with, what are your feelings about that particular type of formula within an international speech? Is that something that was popular back in the day and not really so much now, or something else?
I went and reviewed, great question. I went and reviewed a lot of the videos to see where I guess the trend was headed. I personally do not like the, hey, audience, have you ever? Because that was a great, I think, element to get the audience involved, dare I say, back in the 70s and 80s. So to me, come up with something a little catchier, or don't even use that. Start out by, pretending you're dead and somebody's putting paddles on you and trying to revive you. Let's be different. Let's be unique. Let's get away from that. But I think we need to. I like to see a powerful opening and a powerful ending. I like to see humor. I like not too much. I like to see a personal story and a message. Oh my gosh, leave your audience with a message. To me, that is the most important thing. One thing that I say when I'm giving a keynote is, I would rather somebody come up to me 10 years later and say, man, I remember that speech you gave about your mom dressing you up in those pink itchy dresses. I would rather somebody come up and say they remember me than for me to walk away with a trophy and nobody remembering what I said. So try to make your speech memorable. To me, get away from the have you ever, and get away from the quotes too. I think the quotes is maybe a little old also. Hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you so much, Luisa.
Again, my perspective.
All right, I see I have a question from John Wan.
Luisa, am I coming through?
Go ahead, John, you're on the air.
First time caller, long time listener. Luisa, thank you so much for making this possible for us. Ash, that was for you, FM radio. I have a question for you about authenticity and the genuine tone. So what I so appreciate about what I've seen every time I've seen you speak has been, I feel your words as a person, not just as a listener. And I noticed that that's something that many of us struggle with, whether we're too polished or we just haven't found our feet yet. When you're maybe speaking to a new Toastmaster, what would be a couple of pointers that you'd give as a place to start in order to ultimately end up holding the trophy that you're holding?
There you go. Great question. So the first thing, and I think Toastmasters hit it on the head back with their legacy program, the first speech you were supposed to give was a speech about yourself, the icebreaker. Why? Because one, Usually everybody's comfortable speaking about themselves and they're excited about it. So anybody that's new to Toastmasters, instead of saying, hey, why don't you give a speech on this? Say, okay, so what are you doing right now, in your life? Oh, I'm rescuing dogs. Oh my gosh. Let's hear a speech about dogs. You're doing something in your life because you want to do it. It's your passion. It excites you. It motivates you. And as soon as the audience sees that that's important to you, because you start speaking, I had my best friend who was terrified, absolutely terrified of speaking in front of an audience. But she was a special needs teacher. And if you started talking about autism, you can get her to sit down and be quiet. So that's what you want to do. Ask them, okay, so what's going on right now? What's important in your life right now? Oh, well, my mom's doing this, or I started a new job, or I just got married, or I'm trying to buy a house. Well, let's hear about that. Let's talk about that. And that's what you do. You inspire them to want to bring that excitedness out in their speech. That's what I would recommend to new Toastmasters. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Luisa.
Thank you. Call back again.
Gisella's next.
All right, looks like I have a question from Giselle.
Hi, Luisa.
Hello.
I'm very honored to finally meet you, even if it's virtually, because I've been following your speeches and your podcast interviews. So AJ was kind enough to let me know you were going to be here. So I appreciate it. And I wish I could be there and give you a hug. But I'm at my son's soccer game. But having said that, I just started doing public speaking. I did my first online competition, and I think I see a pattern in my speeches so far is they tend to be very serious, a very serious matter. And I can't seem to put humor into them. And I don't know if that is something that I should look to improve on for if I'm going to continue speaking. But it's just, I'm very passionate about my speeches, but they just don't seem to capture the audience as much as I feel that it should. How do I do that? How have you done that in your career?
Great question. I'm actually coaching a gentleman. I was reviewing his speech and I said, well, we don't have any humor. He goes, what do you suggest? And I said, I got nothing. And I couldn't believe I actually told him I got nothing. I said, you know what? Why don't you, who's the funniest friend you know? And he said, oh, there's this one guy I hang out with. I said, okay, go give the speech to him. And anytime he interjects with something, listen to what he's saying, because it's probably going to be funny. And you might be able to interject that into your speech. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about a subject. However, you don't want it to be too passionate because it makes usually your audience a little uncomfortable. And you want them to know, hey, I'm okay with this. I really want to talk about it, but I hope you're going to be okay with it too. So I would say go to different clubs. Now with Zoom, we're blessed to be able to speak to anybody and say, you know what? I'm trying to make this funny. Anybody have any ideas? And believe me, everybody will start putting responses in the chat or questions. And then in the end, you get to choose what you think funny, what's appropriate, what isn't. We are so horse with the blinders that we just see one thing and we're not able to see other avenues we could be using. So great question. It's good that you realize you need help with this and you're asking, because now you can go and ask for help. That's great.
Okay, now a question from Jeffrey.
I was going to say, I would, it was in front of me, but I thought, but okay. My question is this. What do you do if you keep running into people who have serious speeches when your theme is being funny? I see a lot of speeches where the audience emotional connection are with people who have suffered tragedies or overcome difficulties, and I'm coming in here with a very humorous speech that is inspirational. Am I having the wrong approach?
You keep doing you, boo, okay? And I'll tell you why. When I would go to district conferences and listen to the speeches, one lady talked about her brother dying. and how she had to watch him die on his terms. Another lady talked about her son being in a car accident and donating his organs. And while they're all very emotional and moving, I would walk out of that conference like, oh my, it was just too much, too serious, too something. So I started going out there, and I actually used part of my humorous contest speech and put it into my international speech, because you know what, I can give you a lesson on death and I can make it funny. And I'm going to, I gave a humorous speech on cancer because I had breast cancer. I said, man, and somebody said, you need to talk about cancer. I went, oh my God, that's too depressing. So the challenge for me was making breast cancer funny. And
Uh-oh.
Whoops, we might have lost her again.
Looks
But
like it.
in the meantime, I'm going to post links. I said I would do this earlier, but I didn't do it. I'm going to post links to both of her videos from 2019 and 2024. And I just put those in the chat right now. So I would encourage you guys to take a watch of both of those YouTube videos. They're excellent. I mean, like I said, she got second place 5 years ago and then first place this year.
And the
A
other
pair of
thing
them.
is that a lot of the questions that you're asking were answered on the podcast. There's 3 podcasts that we did with her. So if you look at the channel, D57 YouTube channel that Helen's runs, you'll be able to see a lot of the answers to your questions. Hopefully she'll be back soon. And I would also
She's
encourage
back.
you to contact her directly.
yeah, I'm back.
Welcome
Bad
back.
rash. I don't go away.
We're happy you're here.
Yep.
Yes, I hope I answered Jeffrey's question. Talk about what you want to talk about. I actually spoke about a bullfighting match where the bull dies, and I was able to win district with that because I made it humorous. I didn't talk about anything. I thought, okay, let me make cancer funny. That didn't work, so I said, okay, let me take it the other way, and I did. And I think we're slowly moving towards humor in the international speeches because there were 4 past winners and a nighttime comedy writer as a person that was giving feedback. And I went, since when do we have a nighttime comedy writer as an evaluator? Well, because I don't want to say I'm the reason, but in 2019, I tried to make my speech funnier than sadder, but yet leave you with an important message. So I'm seeing a trend of funny. However, there's a meeting you don't want to pass. You don't want to make it a humorous contest. It's not a humorous contest. So be short with your humor, however, inject it when possible. That's my recommendation. Sorry.
That was one of the comments I had, which was, you should enter this in the humorous contest instead. And I said, we don't have one.
Oh,
I had to find my last where I can get them.
there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Luisa. At this time, what we're going to do is return to our first pair of performers. As you remember, this first speaker was Kaylin, who was evaluated by Ash. And by the way, the rest of you in the audience will have the opportunity to resume questions in about 20-25 minutes after we wrap this up. So there will be a second Q&A session. And if I could ask you to hold your questions until then. So without further ado, let me invite back Kaylin Nasser, where she will be delivering a revised performance of her speech, which was entitled The Final Step Before a New Beginning. Take it away, Kaylin.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, I went to visit my great uncle, who is now 90 years old. And every time I visit him, I love when he tells me about stories of things that he experienced when he was a child. I always feel so sorry for him because the issues that he faced, we cannot even fathom. And although it makes me uncomfortable sometimes to hear it, in my mind, I believe that I don't know what it is to be uncomfortable in comparison to him. And I'm going to share this story with you. He told me that when he was in about 5th grade, he was walking to school one day, and there was a man at the time, you were a white man, and he pulled over and he said to him, "Niggers can't walk on this side of the street. You have to walk over there on the other side." And my uncle said he put his head down and he went to the other side of the street. People today still identify as white or Black. And in my opinion, if you identify as white, you are saying that that is what you identify as. It has nothing to do with your ethnicity. You are the proud aggressor. You are the superior. You represent the superior and dominant race. Even if someone has done nothing to you, you are filled with anger and hate towards them. It could be a child, it can be an elderly person. And if you identify as Black, you are saying that you are helpless. You're dehumanized. You're a heathen, you're waste. You're not worthy of respect. Currently in my life, I am making the change in my home first. I understand that this topic can be very uncomfortable, but this is the reality. There were people back in time who were faced with this every single day. They didn't know comfortable as what we know. They woke up in the morning not knowing if the person that they woke up with would even be alive by the end of the night. And it could be due to them going into the wrong bathroom. It could be anything. I would like for us to move away from the identity label of Black and white. Identify as your ethnicity. If you don't know your ethnicity, I'm encouraging you today to take a DNA test. There's 21andMe, there's My Ancestry, there's other companies that you can research and order a kit through and find out what your ethnicity is and identify as that. I tell my sons now, if someone asks you if you are Black or white, do not answer and identify as your ethnicity. You are Yemeni, Creole, Nigerian, and Italian. When I found out my ethnicity, I felt so proud. I was released from this Black and white label. And I realized that that label has everything to do with something that was so cruel and so terrible that both our ancestors, if you identify as Black and white, both of our ancestors had to have a never-ending life with that. And how beautiful is life? We can wake up, we can go anywhere, we can do what we want to do now. And back then they couldn't do that. And that was their life until they died. I understand that this topic may be uncomfortable for many of you, but my point is to impact you. And I want to encourage you, as I said earlier, to find out what your ethnicity is and identify as that. And don't worry, I've pitched this speech to quite a few people, and the people who identify as white and Black have both felt bothered, but it's okay. I think that as time goes on, you will understand that that label has nothing to do with your actual ethnicity. And your ethnicity is such a beautiful thing. Black and white is something that only exists here in America. If you go to the Dominican Republic and you see someone my color, they will tell you they're Dominican. They're not Afro-Dominican. That's only something that exists here. And I want to encourage everybody today to teach your children to be different. Let's create a new society for them where it's only about your ethnicity. Let's leave black and white to the past, the very sad past. And I pray that their souls rest in peace, but let's move on so our children can have a better future. They don't have to think about that. It doesn't matter. Your ethnicity doesn't matter, but let's identify as what we are, our origin of ethnicity. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Kaylin. And now I'm going to open up a breakout room for Ash to prepare a revised evaluation based on what he has heard, and I am opening that up right now for Ash. And at this time, I'd like to invite Luisa to prepare, provide 2 or 3 minutes of feedback based on the changes that you've heard right now from Kaylin. Based, versus a half hour ago, an hour ago when you first heard it, what kind of changes did you experience and what did you think about them?
There you go. Ash, I'm going to start off with saying that some people will ask for an evaluation, and when they get it, they don't listen, they don't pay attention, they can't be coached, they can't be taught, they can't be persuaded, but you can. And I love that about you, because you came up here and you started with a powerful story, and it right away got my attention. You said the N word, and I'm not going to say it, but I'm not even sure if that would even be allowed in a contest. So you might want to research that. I would hate for you to be disqualified for showing your passion. I think I would have started with, hey, boy, you can't walk on this side of the street. Do you see how saying that, how powerful that is, instead of describing it, to actually say it and almost get the audience going, wait, what did she say? You see, when my grandfather was growing up, that's what he heard almost every single day of his life. And then you're like, wow, the audience is like, oh my gosh. And then you can go and talk about how everybody is, how society is, and all this stuff. I did notice that you were able to take some of the suggestions, but then in the middle of your speech, you started almost reverting back to how you were speaking earlier. And you did say, so if you're this, and so you do this, so you are saying, so you, and now, unfortunately, what I see is attacking the audience. And there's only one person in this world that I ever knew that could attack an audience and get away with it, and that was Don Rickles. And I think instead of saying, if you can say, so I feel terrible that we are like this, or so I feel terrible that my grandfather was treated this way. And I wish things could change. So now you're telling the audience you want to change. And maybe now we want to help you make that change, instead of saying, so you're doing this, and you and the United States, and okay, again, getting off on the wrong foot. You can say, did you know in the Dominican Republic, nobody identifies as black and white? How cool is that? You see, you're not attacking anybody. You're not attacking the US, but you're letting the US know, oh, well, maybe we need to improve, or maybe we need to do better. You kind of want to let the audience think for themselves. I did like that. Again, you started out with that little story. You brought your grandfather in. You talked about your son, and that was great. And you could have come back again and had a powerful ending. But other than that, again, I commend you because you listen to evaluations, you listen to the critique, and you see where improvements need to be made, and you make them. I commend you for that. Good luck, my dear. You have a lot to say. I want to listen, okay?
Thank you, Luisa. At this time, I'm inviting Ash back into the main room. He should have already been automatically popped out. Ash, are you with us? Let me see. Oh, actually, let me kick him out of that breakout room. There we go.
Hello, Hans. If I may interrupt, this is Dilip.
Yes.
We never left the room. Were we supposed to go to the breakout room?
No, it's okay. That was a mistake on my part, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right. At this time, Ash, do you have a revised evaluation for us?
I do.
Excellent. Take it away.
Okay. Hello, everybody, especially Caitlin Nasser. I'm honored to evaluate her speech, The Final Step Before a New Beginning, for a second time. I was particularly captivated by the story at the beginning. It immersed me as if I was watching a scene unfold from a movie. Caitlin exemplifies vulnerability, honesty, and clear narration. Additionally, I commend you, Caitlin, for your courage in using provocative language. This choice effectively conveys the emotions and realities of a situation without intending to provide insult. This compelling speech felt like a really strong narrative. It embodied courage and fearlessness, and it served a powerful example for shaping a future free from prevalent prejudices that unfortunately some parts of our country still struggle with. But on the positive, it does inspire both current and future parents like myself to engage in bold conversations sooner rather than later, to foster a more open and understanding environment for the next generation. I particularly appreciated your use of pauses and noticed a significant improvement in your hand gestures, which enhanced the overall delivery of your message. But as you know, in Toastmasters, we always seek to improve and make our craft of speech and storytelling better. So I have a few suggestions for you to consider. I would suggest in the beginning of your speech to offer a disclaimer. Consider including a statement that clarifies that this speech is not intended to insult or harm, but to share family experiences and things that you have experienced yourself. This can set the appropriate tone and manage audience expectations. The second thing I would suggest is, in the first speech, you had talked about the need for getting one of those tests done, the ancestry test. I would actually have used that at the end of this speech like you did in the first speech, meaning have more emphasis on why this is important. You did talk about it. You did proudly talk about your heritage and the different ethnicities that you and your family are. But the importance of it, I feel, could have been a little more stronger. Which leads to the third and final area of suggestion of improving, strengthening your conclusion. I feel you could have a more robust call to action, similar to the beginning and the end of your first speech, which I just mentioned. Consider including specific suggestions such as advocating for taking the ethnicity test or offering parenting advice for those who wish to engage in similar conversations with their children. I feel this would really get people to say, yes, I'm going to take action. But despite these suggestions, Kaylin's presence, intention, and emotion were unmistakable, and I appreciated her call to encourage us all to question what's in front of us and to really evaluate how are we viewing, labeling, and seeing ourselves. It's also a significant part of her journey because you could feel it in her passion. And I really want to give you another kudos for being an active and dedicated parent. This commitment alone assures me you have your quote unquote why to really excel with this in speech and not only inspire your son, but inspire other people who hear this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. And at this time, I'd like Luisa to provide comments on that revised and improved evaluation from him.
Ash, am I audible?
Yes.
I got nothing. You know, I just kept writing compliment, 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 recommendations, starting conversations with family. So deep on your recommendations. My gosh. I don't toss out compliments in case you haven't seen a couple of my past little reviews here. I tell it like it is because I don't want to waste anybody's time. I seriously want people to improve. And now I want to go be in a contest so you can evaluate me because you are wow. As I wrote, oh my gosh, oh my, like, are you serious? Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's just amazing. When I heard you the first time and then I gave you an evaluation, at the end of my evaluation, I thought, Luisa, you didn't even give him anything to improve on or to get better on. And what kind of evaluator are you? Again, just because the person plays a piano beautifully doesn't mean they can teach you how to play a piano beautifully. And that's me right there in a nutshell. But I commend you, sir, for such a beautiful and eloquent evaluation. Starting off with the disclaimer, hey, there might be offensive, or I don't know what you said, but I took it, and you said it beautifully. Wow, I don't know. I don't have anything. Don't ever go over time, okay? Because it's gonna kill you, and you're gonna lose a first place trophy because you went over time. So don't ever do that. But other than that, great job. I could listen to your
Thank you.
evaluations all day. Your insight profound, and your recommendations even better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Luisa. And at this time, let's see, we've gone through both Kaylin and Ash. We're going to bring the second pair up, and that would include Dilip and Casey. Dilip, are you ready to deliver your revised speech?
Yes.
Okay, let me bring you up on the screen. Where are you? Let's see. There you are. And I'll add you to the spotlight. And let's see here. Remove. All right, take it away. So, and we'll start the clock again at the standard 5 to 7 minutes.
Have you felt uncomfortable negotiating with a senior leader at work? I'll tell you how to negotiate through a personal experience that I used by leveraging 3 principles that served as an effective outcome to a negotiated agreement. So situation was, I was a program manager for a large-scale technology implementation. The team was located in 2 different geographies. Entire engineering team was based in India, a huge time zone difference, while the engineering lead responsible for the oversight of the engineering team was based in US. While this worked very well during planning and feasibility phase, I started hearing stories. One of the stories that cracked me up is during a live meeting, someone started hearing snoring. The poor guy in engineering team just could not take it. It was dead in the night on a call, and he fell asleep on a Zoom call. That was it. I noticed that due to this time zone differences, the product quality from engineering team started going down. It was my responsibility to intervene. The only challenge was the engineering team reported under a different leader outside my organization. So I had to negotiate with the vice president of engineering, Scott, to remediate this situation. I reached out and employed my 3 principles to negotiate. First, build rapport and separate emotions from the issue. The good news was I already had a good working relationship with Scott. In fact, I used an existing one-on-one to bring the situation and tell him that the program was at risk because of lack of collaboration. Second, identify the interest behind positions. During negotiation, it's very easy to take positions. I took a step back and explained that a timely feedback and a good oversight will be key to good and quality deliverables from engineering team. And this difference in time zone between the engineering lead and the rest of the engineering team is acting as a barrier. So we must co-locate the engineering lead with the rest of the engineering team in India. I asked for Scott's position. He told me, Dilip, remember, we need to make sure that engineering team is closely aligned with the product team and stakeholders who are based in US. And therefore, I strongly feel that the engineering lead should be in US. After we understood our interest, the final step was to brainstorm on creative alternatives and come to an agreement. This is where I realized a new piece of information. The engineering leader wanted to set up a new product support team in India, and he needed help. I immediately saw that as an opportunity and reinforced my message that by relocating the engineering leader from US, it'll help him recruit and onboard the support team. You know what made the deal? I offered him to travel and meet engineering team every quarter using the travel funding I had. We were able to reach a win-win outcome. I was able to relocate the engineering lead while I offered my help in setting up the new product support team. Next time when you negotiate, remember, a win-win outcome is possible if you follow the 3 principles. Build a rapport and separate emotions from the issue. Identify interests behind the position. And third, brainstorm the ideas and come to an agreement. At the end, I'll recommend you to read a book from William Ury, Getting Past No. This will give you more negotiation strategies to hone in your negotiation skills. Back to Mr. Toastmasters.
All right, thank you, Dilip. And at this time, some comments from Luisa about how he did in revising that talk.
Dilip, I can't see you. Let me see. Where are you, Dilip? Oh, there you are. There you are. I see you. Wow. Oh my gosh. If you were able to make these major adjustments in that little time that you had, I commend you, because just like with the, I believe her name was, oh my gosh, hang on, the lady that spoke before you. Well, no, that's Ash. That was his evaluation. Oh my gosh. It starts with an M.
Kay.
Kaylin. Kaylin. Yes, Kay. Oh my gosh. So when people evaluate you, Dilip, the thing that you have to realize, it's not a personal attack. It's that we all really want you to get better. And that's what a lot of people have to realize. So when you receive the evaluation from myself and from Casey, you ran with it. And wow, that was great. I love that you're coachable, you're trainable, you listen. Again, in the end, please just stay true to yourself and only take what you want to out of everybody's evaluation. But you went from 7 tips to 3, and then I said, hey, you might want to wrap it up and go back and revisit the 3, and you did that. So that was great. I'm not saying it was right. What this showed me, though, is that you were able to be open to suggestions, and that in itself is the beauty of it. It was build rapport, it was identify interest behind possessions, and it was brainstorming and relocating. And then at the very end, he said, and you know what got me to be able to seal a deal? Yeah, I was going to pay for him to travel, and that was great. If you want to work on something, and this is again me, it was that instead of going too much into detail that probably the audience doesn't need to hear, if you can be less wordy with words that, I was talking to, well, we don't need to talk to, you can say something like, so and so suggested, instead of you saying, well, I was talking to so and so and he suggested. We don't need to hear that I was talking to so and so. You can say, so and so suggested this. This is what we got done. These are my 3 principles. Let me go over them, blah, blah, blah. And so try to make it more concise in your words so it's not too wordy. But other than that, again, I commend you for being able to make the adjustments you made in the time that you had. And I wish you all the luck. So good. Good for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lisa. And at this time, I would like to invite Casey Shaw back to the podium to deliver a revised evaluation. Take it away, Casey.
All right. A win-win outcome is possible if you follow my formula of 3 principles, says Dilip Trivedi. Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, particularly world speech winner, Luisa Montalvo, thank you for being here. Thank you, Dilip, for delivering that revised speech. Amazing, useful information that everyone can benefit from. You had very specific guidance for all of us how we can win this negotiation with senior leaders. Lots of great points you mentioned throughout your speech. I'm going to touch upon the top one, humor. You had a very nice humorous moment in there. I would take it back to Curb Your Enthusiasm directors. You saw somebody snoring during a meeting and you related it to the problem you wanted to solve, which is engineering leader is in US, the team is in India. Of course, there is a time difference of 12 and a half, 13 and a half hours. Duh. Here is a reason why you should not have people sleep during the team meetings. Let's co-locate them. Then you went about solving your challenge with the senior leadership. The spirit of Toastmaster is such that even if Barack Obama or Luisa Montalvo will give a 5 to 7 minute speech, somebody will rise up and give them recommendation. In that spirit, I have 3 for you. Analogy is very powerful tool in public speaking, in lending your message. Imagine if you had come up with an analogy that it's like my engineering leader is in US and 500 people are sitting in India. How is that going to work? Imagine that US president is sitting in US leading 1.3 billion people in India. Your message would immediately resonate when you have an analogy like that. Another feedback I have for you is message linking. When you have a strong message you want to hang on, you need to build a bridge across your speech so you can hang your powerful message, and that can be done with signposting. Often you will see great speakers, they will signpost forward and backward. So you can remind what the big problem you're trying to solve. When you're in the middle, the beginning, you can signpost towards the end of the situation. The pauses are so important. Music happens between the notes. You had a number of pauses, but when you maybe even use pause when you solve the problem, like let it sink in. A triumphant moment, you solve the problem. Overall, really great speech, easier to follow, 3 points easier to digest. Well done, Dilip. Can't wait to hear more from you. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmasters hands.
Thank you, Casey. And at this time, I'd like Luisa to provide 2 or 3 minutes of comments. How did Casey do in revising this talk?
Thank you so much. Going back to here we are to the review. Okay, great intro again, Casey, but you did that in the first evaluation. You gave a great intro, so I have it here, great intro. You did that twice, so I'm impressed because sometimes we do it once and then forget the next time, but no, you seem to open that way, so that's really good. I like that. You gave a great review of Dilip's speech, which means 1, you were listening, 2, you helped us that maybe weren't listening or paying attention. So it's good that you give a review because then you can go back and say, here where you did this, you might want to do this. So that's a good reference for the audience. You told him, and I love this, you told him His message was universal. Now, that alone is going to want anyone to inspire anyone to continue giving speeches, because when somebody says, hey, your message was universal. Oh, wow. Great. It was. Okay, great. I'm on the right track. And you inspire the actual speaker. So that is good. You reviewed the humor, and that he brought in humor because you suggested it. And you reviewed the story also. So that was good. You made a beautiful analogy on the suggestion. So to me, being able to give a speaker examples instead of just saying, hey, use hand gestures. Well, what kind of hand gestures? So when you give an analogy, you're actually helping the speaker to realize and visualize what changes need to be made. So that was very good. And that was powerful. You also, I said, again, I wrote down more great suggestions, because just because you make a suggestion, a speaker will come back and improve it the way he thinks, but then you're thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe you could also do this. So that's great, because a speech is forever evolving. Somebody asked me, how many times did you practice your speech, or how many times did you rewrite it? I told them I was rewriting it till the night before the contest. So a speech can always evolve, can always get better. So that's great. I love that you brought that up, that just because you say something and they go on the revive it or review it and improve it doesn't mean it can be improved on more. It was a great evaluation. I'm almost at a loss. Maybe we have terrible evaluators in my clubs because you guys are just so amazing. But now I'm going to have to tell our evaluators at our club to step it up. And I really enjoyed your evaluation. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Luisa. We have reached the conclusion of all four people's performances and revised performances. So at this time, what we're going to do is turn it over to a second Q&A session with Luisa to provide those of you in the audience another opportunity to ask Luisa questions not only about what makes a good speech or a good evaluation, but what she experienced on her journey and some of the pressures or pleasures that she experienced during that long road. Like I said, it's been 5 years since she got second place 5 years ago, and now she got first place. That's a long road. And there must undoubtedly be a variety of experiences that you'd like to know about. So at this time, I'm going to scan the room for questions. And let's see what I've got. I've got one from, let's see. Who do we have? Oh, Genevieve.
Oh, hi. Lisa and I will do it first, but either way, I'll just go. Luisa, there's so much that I'm grateful for today. I do have a practical question, particularly since you seem to encourage that we not be so rote, so stuck on the format, and yet at the same time, if you don't follow the format, you might not get the points. I appreciate that you say that leaving an impact is much more important than leaving with an award, and I believe that. I do have a question about the so-called call to action. That seems to be so formulaic, and it makes me, I kind of balk against it when it comes out sort of like, so therefore I ask you to. And often I feel that a speech itself can have a call to action if you're listening. You don't have to frame it as such. Tell me your views on that.
I realize exactly what you're saying, and I am now realizing possibly that the two speeches that I won second and first place with, maybe I wasn't powerful enough in my message, because I reiterated at the end, this is what I'd like you to do. And again, it is part of the formula. However, if you feel that you've mentioned it and you've gone round and round about it enough to where you don't have to bring it up again, you don't even have to suggest what needs to be done, then so be it, and start a trend, because this is going to be something that's going to make the speech better, more powerful. Again, back in this, somebody criticized my speech in 2019. And I believe Mark Brown stood up and said, hey, did you know that up until 1990, everybody stayed behind the podium? So we had to have somebody come out and do something different. And now who gives a speech behind the podium? Nobody. Nobody. So that would be, it would be a great trend to start. Good luck if you're that person to do it. I'm glad I don't have to compete anymore to try to be the one to do it. But you're absolutely right. If your speech has already been impactful and powerful enough that you don't have to reiterate it, then so be it. Absolutely. Great point.
Thank you. In a way, it's just like, isn't it obvious in what's being said? Just like what, Kay has that in her stories.
Exactly.
You don't have to tell us to get tested for us to know we need to follow up because I need to relate and react to what I've just heard.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
All right, thank you. I see a question from Awada. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes. Thank you, Hans. And thank you, Luisa, for spending time with us. In your feedback to the speeches, I heard it again and again that adding humor to the speech makes the speech more effective, and that's one of the formula. I'm working on my engaging humor path in my Toastmasters club, but I often find it challenging to make my speeches humorous, even when I have that in my mind that I want to make it, but I'm not able to do it. Some speakers, they seem to effortlessly add humor to their story. How do they do it? Is there a formula for incorporating the humor, or is there any reference that I can look for to add humor in my speeches? Thank you.
Great question. A tough one to answer. Again, I am naturally a humorous person. I love the humorous contests. But to be able to incorporate humor, if you feel you are unable to do it on your own, I can only make the same suggestion that I made earlier, which would be to go ahead and find your best friend that's funny, to find a club and tell them, look, I need an evaluation, but I need help on making this funny. Now, the thing is, you don't want to make it funny so you can compete in a humorous contest. You want to add humor to make it a variety of emotions that your audience is going to go through. The one I stick to is make them laugh, make them cry, and send them home with a message. So if you can make them laugh a little bit, if you can make them cry a little bit, but then in the end they get a message, that would be good. My suggestion would be to ask your best friend who's funny and hilarious, read the speech to him and say, what do you think? And then if he's not funny enough, go ahead and find some clubs that would more than be more than happy to assist you with that. Okay. And I wish you luck, because that is a hard thing to do. That is a very hard thing to do.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Luisa.
Okay, next up in the question list, I see Giselle. Giselle, do you have a question?
Yes, hi, Luisa. So I have a question. What was the aha moments that you learned from speech, when you won second place to the one when you won first place?
Luisa looks like she's frozen. Did she disappear again?
Yeah, it appears so. Let's see. Yeah, she's not.
She'll come back.
She's in the list.
I readmitted her.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Readmitted. I like that. I like the sounds of that.
All right, well, let's see if we can spotlight you. Right now, I don't see you.
I've been admitted, but to be readmitted, woo! I am on a roll. Somebody give me a trophy.
Were you able to hear my question, Luis?
Oh, no. Please repeat.
So my question was, between your second speech when you got second place and your first speech, what were the aha moments that you had that helped you, or you believe helped you win your first place from your second? Like lessons learned and aha moments.
Wow. I've always been an upbeat person. I've always tried to live every day the best I can and have fun. And I never really got serious about anything. But then you know what happened was my best friend was watching my 2019 and she said, "Man, Luisa, that's a good speech. How are you going to top that? How are you going to beat that?" And she might as well have just punched me in the stomach because I thought, oh, oh my gosh, how am I going to top that? How am I going to beat that? And then I went, wait a minute. You're not competing against that speech. That's a speech you did 5 years ago. You know what? And then I don't know if you know who Jerry Lewis is, but he was a great comedian here in the United States. And he was funny, and he was funny. And every movie they put him in, funny, funny, funny. And then they put him in a serious movie, and nobody liked the movie. Everybody was waiting to laugh, and he didn't say a single joke. And I thought, okay, everybody knows you from 2019, and you're funny, Luisa. How hard would it be for you to leave most of the humor out? Be serious? A little humor? Leave a message? Can you pull it off? So for me, that was my aha moment that, wait a minute, I'm not competing against that speech. However, I do not want to be typecast as a funny person. So that's where I kind of reinvented myself. And of course, dying is something that makes you rethink a lot. So I think that was a combination. Great question. Thank you. So
Thank you.
Okay, as I'm scanning the gallery view for additional questions, I don't see any other hands raised. Does anyone else have some input they'd like to add or a question to raise? Let's see. Oh, there you go. Genevieve, take it away.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
I had tons of questions. I just love to sit down with you. Luisa. Oh, it is Luisa with an L-U-I.
yes,
Aha.
Luisa.
That's how I spelled it first. And then, okay. Tell me what kept you going through your 11 years? I imagine that for the first 6, you were rewarded by placing in 2019, and then you kept at it for another 5 years. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's called stubbornness. And when people tell me I can't do something, in fact, the people that really know me have now used that against me because of saying, well, I don't think you can. I'm like, oh, yeah, wait a minute. And they're like, well, see, she fell for it. I told you she'd do it. So I think it was just stubbornness. I will have to share that I am so competitive. And it's not so much that I hate to lose, is that I hate to start over again. And when you lose, you basically have to start over again. But it thickened my skin to where, I mean, the first time I lost a district in 2013, I was crying all the way home. You know, it's a 4-hour drive, and I'm like, oh my God, and I can't believe. And those stupid judges, and forget Toastmasters. And I was just so mad and upset. And I don't think I went to a Toastmasters meeting for a month. But then after that, I said, okay, so you're going to let them win, Luisa? So Toastmasters wins. So the judges win. So district won and you didn't. Oh, you know what? I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this again. And I did it again and again and again. In the 7th year, I told my 94-year-old mentor, Phyllis Allen, I said, this is it. If I don't win this year, I'm done. Because how many times are they going to tell me no? You know, I thought by now they would have said, hey, let's just give her the trophy so she goes away. But no, nothing. No pity trophy, no nothing. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is my last year. And then she tells me something that I've shared with everybody. She said, well, Luisa, I know what you're doing that's making you not win. And I said, wait a minute. You've known for 7 years why I'm not winning, and you're just now telling me this? Are you serious? She says, you're not having fun. You know, I said, Phyllis, it's a contest, not a fun. Okay, contest. They're testing me. She said, you're too serious. Go have fun. And I said, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna go have fun because this is the last year I'm doing it. Got up on stage, had fun, placed second in the world, and I said, I'll be darned. That's what it was. And I was happy with second. And then because of COVID, I only went to Puebla, Mexico, gave a keynote. People are standing in line. We're taking pictures after my keynote. One lady comes up and says, hey, Luisa, congrats. You're the first Hispanic to make it that high. I'm like, really? She says, yes, congratulations. I said, thank you. I go to talk to the next person in line. She says, oh, Luisa. And I said, yes. She said, and good luck on your journey to make it to the number one. Now, are you kidding me? I got to do this another 7 years? Are you not happy with second? I'm happy with second. Can't we all be happy with second? And she said, Luisa, if anybody can do it, you can. I went, oh, great. Okay, great. So there I go. Another 5 years trying. And of course, I told myself, Luisa, this isn't going to take you 7 years. It's going to take you 4. But I did it in 5. So I'm still happy because I didn't compete 2020. So, but yeah, I'm stubborn. That's why I kept going, because I'm stubborn.
You mentioned your mentor. Jeffrey has a question, but if we have time afterwards, I would be interested in hearing about your mentor journey.
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Kind of a follow-on question to that. Do you feel that people bringing the same speech over and over to contests are better than people who bring original speeches anytime because they have the ability to polish that speech and make it a little bit better? Or do you feel that original speeches count?
Well, first, let's get to the legalities of it. I don't believe you can use the same speech over and over. Like, say, if you win second or third place in district, you're not allowed to use that speech again. I believe those are the rules. Now, if you get to just area and division, fine. But to me, it lost for a reason. So if you can totally turn that bad speech around and make it something almost brand new, then go for it. And if somebody comes up and says, hey, you know what? That was a really good speech, but I don't think the way you presented it was right. Then you've got an inclination that, yes, this is a good speech. I just need to know how to present it better. But if people come up to you and say, oh, sorry you didn't win. Well, okay, so take that as a hint that the speech did not go over well, and go and try and look for another speech or another idea or a different presentation. That's my thought on it. It does help when you practice over and over, which now, because of Zoom, you can go in front of all these different clubs. That would be my recommendation. If you're losing that contest, there's a reason why. It gave me the opportunity to reinvent myself, and I believe that's what actually was able to help me win in the end.
Sounds like a plan.
My perspective. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't apologize for perspective. It's valid.
Way to go, Jeffrey. You
also,
back
because
me
I agree
up.
with you.
You back me up, Jeffrey.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey. Not seeing any other questions, I would like to wrap this up. I mean, it's been an amazing almost 2.5 hours. We planned on just 2.
Can she talk about her mentorship?
I'm sorry?
Can she talk about her mentor journey?
Mentor journey? So can you elaborate on that?
Really quickly, I believe, Genevieve, you're asking about my mentor. My mentor is 94-year-old Phyllis Allen, and she's been in Toastmasters 47 years. I don't want to make it sound like she's been around the block a couple of times, but she probably helped them build the block. So when she gives me suggestions, I actually listen. In 2019, when I made it to regional, I was approached by one of the past winners saying, he said, hey, I can coach you. And I asked my mentor, I said, should I go with a coach? And she told me flat out, you don't need a coach. And if you do win, the coach is going to say that the only reason you won was because you had a coach. You don't need a coach. Go at your own pace. Get suggestions from everybody, but you got this. And that's exactly what I did. I listened to her because, again, she's been around the block a couple of times. She's 94 years old. She'll be 95. We're 2 days apart on birthdays, but she's an amazing, amazing woman. And she was the one that actually inspired me, because she said, you know what, you're wasting your time with these little gavel masters and this and that, and you should be competing. And of course, I was already with the idea of competing. So I owe her the world. She's also, I have to give her kudos to this. She's from Des Moines, Iowa, came down to South Texas just to winter down here, because we have 80-degree winters and they have 80 below winters. But when she came down here, she wanted to join a Toastmaster club. And when she found there were no Toastmaster clubs, she's chartered 5 of the clubs down here. So I owe her more than just her mentorship. I owe her the fact that she started the clubs down here. Had she not done that, I wouldn't be speaking to you today.
All right. Thank you for that additional question. And seeing no other questions, what I'd like to do, as I mentioned before, amazing 2.5 hours, outstanding opportunity for everyone to learn and grow. And I just want to remind everyone that, of course, we're now in the middle of contest season, but even if your club has decided not to hold a contest, you can still compete. There's still time. Talk to your club's president, because your president or VPE can actually nominate someone to advance to the next level, even if they didn't have a contest. The next level begins next month at the area contest level. Amazing opportunity for those of you to go out and meet other people, because those contests at the area level are in person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fabulous networking opportunity for you to go out and experience life outside of your club at the area contest. Check it out. Those contests will be posted on the D57 calendar beginning probably the middle of next month is when the first one will occur. So please be on the lookout for those. And like I said, tonight's been an amazing opportunity. We want to thank Luisa so much for all the time that she spent with us, not only tonight, but during the podcast recordings that we provided a few months ago. She's had just a stellar amount of insight, experiences, and memories to share with us, along with the great advice as well. So with that, hearing no other questions or conclusions, I would like to wrap up and thank you again for this amazing 2.5 hours.
Can we grab a screenshot, Hans?
Yes, I will put it on gallery view and take one myself. So if everyone who would like to turn on their camera, please do so, and I'll take a screenshot in 5 seconds. Wow is filling up quite nicely. I have 3 people who have not turned it on, and that's okay too. But in 5 seconds, here goes the camera. Boom, there it goes. Totally full. Wow, that never happens. That is a total of 25 faces on one screen. I captured 25 people. That's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
I have a question. Do we have a way
Yes.
to get in touch with Luisa?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is it possible to post a way to get in touch with Luisa?
Yeah, Louise is welcome to do that.
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. Also my email, and I'm terrible about email, so give me a week or so to get to it. It's Montalvo or Montalvo.Luisa, no O, at yahoo.com. I'm also on Facebook, Messenger, all that stuff. I was on TikTok, but it's a very sensitive subject for me. So, so LinkedIn, Facebook, I think I'm Snapchat or Instagram, but I really don't check those. Email, WhatsApp. I don't know what else is there. What I don't know. It's sure. If you know Lisa, get a hold of Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for this invite. Hans, great
Louisa,
job.
this has
Your
been
patience.
just wonderful. Hugs, hugs, hugs.